Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Spectrum Resource Center Mixer. We're so happy that you decided to join us this evening to learn about all of the resources that the university has for the LGBTQ AIA community. We are an inclusive campus community, and it is always our goal to ensure that our students are provided with the resources that they need here at the university. A little bit about our Spectrum Resource Center. It is located here in the Student Union on the second floor. It's a space for you to come, hang out, relax, and enjoy the resources, workshops, and everything that we have to offer for our community here at the institution. We also have two organizations on campus that you can join. And we also have a Gay Straight Alliance. As an ally, I am always supportive of the community to ensure that I am your voice to advocate for you, but those organizations are also an avenue for you to advocate. It is our goal that you grow, learn, and develop and be able to successfully advocate for yourself. So once you leave here and go into the workforce, you are fully equipped to navigate just as we do with you here at the institution. We are blessed this evening to have a very, very special guest, Dr. Brent Lewis. I can't remember when I met him. Seems like we've been soul brother and sister since day one. But Dr. Lewis he is a guru. He is a leading educator in gender equity, inclusion, and diversity. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about his journey from day one, stepping foot on a college campus to getting into his career and where he is today. But this is the opportunity. We have the chat open. Do we have the chat open, Mr. Smalls? But if you have any questions, if there's anything that you want to know or ask Dr. Lewis, we'll make sure that the venue is open for you to do that. So without further ado, if you will, please help me in welcoming the incomparable, the dynamic, Dr. Brent Lewis.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Dean Bradley. It's always good to be with my Savannah State family.
Yes, welcome back. I hate the pandemic. We should be eating hot wings tonight.
Yeah, we should be in person with your students, but it's okay. They're virtual with us and they'll still be able to engage and ask questions and listen to us chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's just start with you giving us a little bit about you, your first day on a college campus as a first year student, and bring us up to where you are today.
Oh gosh, you want me to really think?
Let's get all into it.
My first day on a college campus. Wow. So I went to North Carolina A&T State University. So I know Mr. Stowe very well
Yeah.
from college days. I went to A&T in 2004 as a first-time freshman. I moved into my building, my residence hall, on my birthday, actually, August 7th, 2004. And at that point, I was not as aware of how to be me. Like I knew who I was. I was very aware of who I was in terms of my sexuality, but I wasn't comfortable. I lived in one of the honors residence halls. So I had a single room. One of my fears coming into an HBCU was I would have a roommate who may have been homophobic. I didn't have to deal with that because I had my own room, but I had suite mates.
Right.
All my suite mates were straight, as far as I know, but I didn't have any problems with them. They were very nice to me. Their friends weren't always nice, but my suite mates were always cool. I had no issues with them. Lived on campus for 1 year. We had a multicultural center, but they didn't center their resources and their services around LGBTQ experiences.
Right.
So it wasn't like we had any programming or activities on campus that talked about the topic. The first time I remember having conversations about queer experiences in college was in a human sexuality class
Oh,
my
wow.
junior year.
Mm.
And my professor was an older woman
Mhm.
named Miss Ruthina. I will never forget her. Miss Ruthina was very open to talking about sex. She was very open to talking about sexuality, orientation, gender identity. She didn't shy away from any of it.
Right.
And that was the first space I thought, okay, I can now have these dialogues
Right.
as a college student.
Yeah. Your
Fast
junior
forward to
year.
my senior year. Yeah, that was my junior
Wow.
year. That was the
Yeah.
first time I remember having a dialogue about it in a formal space on
Mhm.
campus.
Mhm.
Obviously, me and my friends that I met very early on would
Was
share with each other.
engaging. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But back then, there was no social media. Students now, you have everything at your fingertips. You've got
Yeah.
Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook.
Mhm.
We had MySpace. I'm telling my age now.
Ooh.
We had MySpace.
Yeah.
That was later. I don't even think that may have been out when I got there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Facebook came around a little later, my freshman year, but it
Right.
wasn't what it looked like now. You couldn't just slide in nobody's DMs.
Right.
You really had to meet people.
People.
And
Yeah.
so, that's one thing we probably share in common. When we went to college,
Mhm.
relationships meant a lot.
They meant a whole lot. Correct.
You had to talk to people.
Right.
You could not just text. You could not just talk on social media because that platform just wasn't there.
Available. Correct.
It wasn't available. And
Right.
so to try to meet someone and date or meet
Mhm.
someone to get to know, you had to be really careful and really intentional about building those relationships.
Mhm. Mhm.
I got very comfortable with my sexuality probably my senior year,
Mm.
07, 08. I had a really close circle of friends, and we were all, not all of us, but all the guys in the group were gay.
Mhm.
And we all became very comfortable with who we were. So by the time I graduated college and went into the workforce, I was finding myself. I was more comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
I graduated and became a school teacher, K-12,
Mhm.
and I always thought I wanted to go to college and teach.
Right.
Wasn't in love with it, but I done it for a while. And I said, let me go back to grad school. Let me get a master's degree because in the state of North Carolina, the only way to move up professionally and salary wise was to get a master's.
Wow.
So I went back, got my master's, ended up not getting my master's in elementary education, but in higher education,
Mhm.
got an assistantship in residence life,
Mhm.
and I never left. You
So.
know,
Right.
I never left. That experience in res life
Mhm.
was where I really found my passion. I
Right.
found that working with college students
Mhm.
was my calling, not
Right.
children.
Right.
I
Right.
was meant to be an educator. I just had no
In a
clue that
different
it
way.
would evolve to adults
Right. In a different way. Right.
in a different way.
Yeah.
And it allowed to own myself, own my identity, and
Mhm.
help students to find their voice and find their identities
Right.
and
Right.
be comfortable in that.
Be comfortable. So let me ask you, what would you say to a first year student coming to college, a new environment? What are some things that in personal that they can do to begin to acclimate and become comfortable just being in a new environment, and then being themselves or as much of themselves as they can be?
I would say identify the resources on your campus
Mhm.
that you find to be helpful.
Mhm.
Um, those spaces create that sense of belonging, and
Right.
those spaces help you find friends, and those friendships really help you find yourself even more than the
Mhm.
classes, than the programs. The programs are supplemental, but
Mhm.
those relationships that you build with your friends and even with the faculty and staff,
Mhm. Mhm.
those relationships where you start to feel comfortable, you start asking questions,
Mhm.
other people start sharing about their stories.
Mhm.
The more you talk and navigate the college life and all that it entails,
Mhm.
you will become more comfortable. You also have to get engaged with the community around you because you're
Right.
not just at the institution. You're
Mhm.
very much a part of wherever your school is. Like my
Mhm.
school was in Greensboro, North Carolina. it wasn't just A&T. I was
Right.
also a resident of Greensboro. And
Mm-hmm.
so plugging into things that Greensboro offered for LGBTQ or Black folks, or however you identify, whether it was
Right.
religion and spirituality. I was in the gospel choir in college, so I was very engaged with churches in the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those types of things really help a first year student make themselves at home,
Right.
because where you are is your home for the next 4 years.
Correct, correct. And everything doesn't have to be centered around being in the community. You can still engage the entire Savannah State community and find that sense of belonging. Plug into those resources. A number of us on campus, you did the training for us, the safe space training for us. So if you go throughout campus and different offices, or on our emails, you'll see little designations that say safe spaces. Tell us why those spaces are important, and what the folks who have that designation, what are they there to do and be for
Mhm.
a student?
So that visibility piece
Mm-hmm.
is critical. The pieces in your signatures on your email,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a safe space sticker on your door, that visibility is critical to students, because
Mm-hmm.
that says out to the student, I'm a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
You can come ask questions. You can come talk about your experiences. You can come here and just hang out if you need to. It
Mm-hmm.
just says, I can be all of me. I can
Right.
bring all of myself to
Mm-hmm.
you. And you might not understand all of it,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll try.
Right.
You'll engage me. What does it mean for the professional?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of weight to say that you're a safe space, because sometimes you have to take on things that we may not be prepared for.
Right.
I had safe space stickers on my door, and students would come in and tell me a lot of deep things about their experiences, their challenges, their
Mm-hmm.
childhood. And my background is in counseling, but I
Right.
know how to get you to counseling if you need it. I know how
Right.
to support you in this space if you need to process things. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to say you're a safe space, colleagues, make
Right.
sure you're ready for what comes with that, because
Right.
it does come with some work
Mm-hmm.
on your part. You have to continue to stay educated. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just go through one safe space training or one safe zone training and think, now I'm prepared to always
Right.
provide
Right.
support for students. You got to
Right.
continue to stay abreast of the terminology. You got to
Right.
continue to know what's happening within the community. What are the challenges that students that identify in the community are having? And those challenges look different based on students' identities, based
Right.
on the type of campus you have,
Mm-hmm.
based on where they are, their level of acceptance of themselves, or their family acceptance of them.
Right, right. Yeah, we know that a number of students will come to college and find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And being a safe space is good. And I'm not a counselor either. I have a little bit of understanding of drug addiction, that kind of stuff. Did that training. So having a safe space person on campus who is tapped into all of the resources, when we hear or when we're having dialogue with students, we can navigate them to the appropriate spaces. Mental health
Mm-hmm.
is really important, and we always push on our campus that help is not a bad four-letter word. So having those counseling services, our counselors specialize in having that dialogue or working with the students in the community is important. How do students voice if we're missing something on campus? How do students tell us? I'm always gung-ho student life. Hey, let's give students what they need. What are some ways that students can relate to us as services and things that they need that are going to be of interest to them, versus us putting out programming and activities that really don't, resonate with them?
I think there's a couple of ways you could do that.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've done with students at Fayetteville State is I would do like a social, like a mixer, like what we're doing tonight, just in
Right.
person, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
With some snacks, some ice cream, some wings, some candy, something,
Mhm.
and just have some dialogue, like
Right.
what's happening on campus. What types of events have you been to since you got here? Like I used to do things like this with freshmen.
Mhm.
Um, what have you liked? what events stood out to you during the week of welcome? What did we miss? What type of event do you wish you would have seen coming in the door? Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe some check-in after homecoming. Was there something you felt like we could have done during homecoming that would have engaged you? So I think some focus groups with students,
Right.
um, even a survey with an incentive attached to it, because
Mhm.
college students are not interested in a long survey that they
Right.
think they're not getting anything out of. And
Right.
so maybe a short survey,
Mhm.
or a small focus group to, to take away what are students looking for in
Mhm.
terms of programming, in terms of services, in
Mhm.
terms of engagement, and how do we meet that need?
How would you meet that? Right. So let's go dial back to students becoming um, comfortable and safe in their own space. Again, go back to your freshman year. You're moving about campus in your classroom. You're really just trying to figure out who you are as a person. Share some of the feelings, some of the, the headspace you might have been in, what they may expect to. Everybody's experience is going to be different. But just some, things that they may encounter and how can they work through that, that period while they're trying to get acclimated.
I think it depends on how you identify in terms of outside of the community, right? So I grew up Christian in a Christian household, so I was definitely navigating my Christianity
Mhm.
along with my sexuality.
Mhm.
Um, Also navigating my blackness
Mhm.
connection to sexuality. So navigating a HBCU campus that is all about my blackness.
Mhm.
Like that piece was nurtured all 4 years.
Right.
But when I think back to my experiences, I wanted someone to talk to
Mhm.
about my queer identity. And I don't feel like I ever had that
Mhm.
person on campus, like
Mhm.
an office or a department or a class that explored sexuality really in terms of identities.
Mhm.
So I never felt that my safety was in jeopardy as a student. I
Mhm.
always felt safe on campus, but I just wish that I didn't have to feel like I had to be two different people.
Mhm.
Like I could be myself on Friday night at the club because we had a
Right.
club that was gay on Friday nights,
Mhm.
and pretty much everybody that was in the community would be at that club on Friday night.
Okay.
And that's really how you knew who on campus was in the community or an ally,
Right.
because there was no website or app to find
Mhm.
people on. You
Mhm.
met at the club on Friday night. That community came back to campus though, and you started to hang out,
Mhm.
engage, talk, build support systems for each other. Me and
Right.
my friends were each other's support systems. We were each other's listening ear and
Mhm.
processors. And let's talk through this.
Right.
Okay, how does that make you feel?
Mhm.
When did you know that you felt however you identify?
Mhm.
Are you out? We had a lot of those conversations as friends,
Mhm.
but even getting to the point of comfortability to do that
Right. Takes
was a
time.
process because
Right.
I came to college and my best friend came to A&T a year before me.
Mm.
And she and I really didn't have the conversation about my sexuality until my freshman year. And
Ooh.
I was even nervous to have the conversation with her because we was in the same place, same neighborhood, same church, almost family.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was like, how can I really tell you this? Will
Right.
this get out? Will I still have the support of family?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. That's yeah. The trust factor that I know for a lot of students, that's a nervous space for them to be in. You can't tell them when they're going to have it or when they feel comfortable. It has to be something that they grow into and feel comfortable with themselves first, and then they're able to share. So as you journey through your career, talk a little bit about the workforce and how you navigate that as as an individual in the community. I'm gonna tell you. I know you do those eyebrows and I see the nails and you have your bag. How do you navigate that and be yourself because you have, what is conforming to society, but still, I know you're able to be yourself and still be respected and taken, serious for who you are. So how do you navigate that in the workforce?
That is a really good question, really. And it took me a while to learn how to navigate that. Um, and I have conversations now with my career services office around as we think about, career fairs and sending our students out on internships and preparing them for the workforce.
Right.
How do we have conversations around what if you identify as non-conforming or trans or gender fluid? What's appropriate to wear to an interview?
Right.
Um, how
Right.
do you show up one way at the interview and change it up when you get to work?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all questions that, particularly queer students who or queer people whose outward appearance may
Mm-hmm.
be different from what people expect it to be,
Exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, one of my students came to me once and said, Dr. Lewis, I do not feel comfortable wearing a dress to this interview. She identified as lesbian,
Mm-hmm.
and her appearance was more masculine. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, what makes you feel more comfortable in terms of dress code?
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she was like, I'm okay with wearing like a pantsuit, or I'm okay with wearing this, like a blazer and some nice dress slacks and a nice dress top. And I said, well, is it business professional? And she
Mm-hmm.
said, yeah. I said, okay, then wear that.
Right.
I said, because the reality is you're not going to wear a dress when you get the job.
Right.
So there's no need in selling them a product that you're not going to be.
Exactly.
So early on in my career, I would wear like a full men's suit to interviews and a briefcase and all of these things that I knew I wouldn't want to wear
Mm-hmm.
once I got the job.
Right. Right.
I remember when I interviewed at FSU, I did that.
Mm.
And that was the last time that I didn't bring a bag or I didn't show up to an interview with my nails done. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was the last time. But when I showed up to work, I had my bag, I had my nails, and it blew the campus away.
Right. Right.
Uh, the students loved it. And I never knew that the
Uh-huh.
students paid attention to my nails
Mm-hmm.
until like one of my best friends, her brother was on the football team and he was a freshman as I was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the one thing that I remember about Brent was his nails. He was like, Brent always had his nails done and
Right.
always had a nice bag when I saw him. Like students
Mm-hmm.
paid very close attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
But like living and owning all of me, even in the workplace,
Right.
once I started to do that,
Mm-hmm.
not only did it help the students feel more comfortable with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
it helped colleagues who were struggling with navigating their sexuality in the workplace to
Mm-hmm.
be okay. Like they weren't necessarily as open as me,
Mm-hmm.
but they felt okay. They felt safe. They felt like, okay, Brent is here. He's
Mm-hmm.
comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
He's living in his truth.
Right.
I can do this.
Right.
Like, and I tell anyone, sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes it's hard, especially if you're a trans student and you're trying to navigate
Mm-hmm.
name change or
Mm-hmm.
what you want to wear or how you want to show up. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest piece is authentic, being your authentic self,
Right.
because you can only be you. And
Right.
to try to change it up takes so much effort.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I think, it reminds me, of being the hero. When we were young, we saw people before us going to college. When we got to college, we saw, our faces. And so I think it's very important and it gives courage. It helps, other students, other people in the community and colleagues to have the courage to be their authentic self. So I think, in terms of how I view your hero, we you want to see brown faces, in the workplace, in the corporate 500 companies. So it's this, I akin it to the same thing. We want to see, individuals in the community, trans, however they show up, to be themselves, to give courage to, the next generation of those individuals that may not feel as, ready or safe. It builds a community across campus. I know prior to us starting, to really talk about, the LGBTQ community here on campus, it was, you kind of knew there were faculty and staff that were in the community, but it wasn't until we started talking about it. And we did that first summit, that it was like, oh, wow. And even, for those that are allies or not in the community, the interest and just the, what do you call it? Just to be in the nosy. Let me see what they have.
Interesting the conversation.
Right. It was very, very, I was overwhelmed, of the number of folks who really, wanted to learn and know, so that we wouldn't be offensive, and just so that we can understand and support the student, the whole student, regardless if they identify or not in the community. So let's talk about some fun stuff. We are connected with the Human Rights Campaign HBCU Leadership Program. We send students every year to that program, the Institute, every year. When we were able to, before Rona, before she came
before all this,
I had my first experience with seeing what a ball looks like, and now I'm addicted. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to watch.
I gotta give you a sidebar.
Okay.
There's a show on HBO Max called Legendary. I don't know if you've already watched it.
Watched it all. Binge watched it.
Okay, I binge watched it too.
Right. I love that. So for me, the creative vibe, a lot of the things that we do, the trends, came from that scene. So let's talk about how the LGBT community has influenced a lot of pop culture, a lot of, the fashion and things like that. And just the fun part of it. I mean, I love it. It's vibrant, it's beautiful. And that's what I, share with my niece, hey, just enjoy the wave. So let's talk about the pop culture and how that whole ball scene has influenced a whole lot.
Well, I think the show Pose really done a really good job of pointing out that whole early 90s phase with Madonna and Pose, all of that music, and the J setting and all of the pieces that Madonna pulled from the scene. That really mainstream. That put us in mainstream. Like, it put us into the pop culture. But you think about shows like reality TV. A lot of times we're in those spaces. Like Real Housewives of Atlanta. Everybody remembers Miss Lawrence, Dwight. Like, these folks. Their household names. Early 90s, RuPaul was probably the first Black drag queen that people knew. She was very much part of the pop culture scene. Honestly, some of the terminology that you hear people talking about, throwing shade and reading people, the queer community the Black queer community in particular, has been using some of these slang terms for many, 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 many years. We've always been, I feel like, a part of the culture. I think what has changed over the most recent years is that people have become more comfortable with themselves a lot earlier. And we are seeing more on mainstream, on TV, on reality TV shows. A lot of reality TV has been geared towards educating people about the community. There was a show about a J-set team, and I can't think of it now, but it was all gay Black men. Even shows like Bring It that were about female dance teams, but they always had a gay coach or
Right.
a gay dancer somewhere in the mix. And so it brings it into the Black household families because many times we're watching these
Mm-hmm.
shows,
Right.
particularly the shows like a Real Housewives of Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
Black women are watching. But
Mm-hmm.
some of these shows, you look at a show like a P Valley or some of the shows that Black men are now watching,
Right.
the community has also infused ourselves into some of that mainstream, and it's creating opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
families to have intentional conversations. I remember my one of my male cousins texted me over the summer and
Mm-hmm.
said, "What do you think about Dwayne Wade's daughter?" And so celebrities having trans children or gay children is another way that it's become more mainstream, and the conversation that needs to happen
Mm-hmm.
in many of our households is
Right.
now happening just because of celebrities.
Right. Right. So, do you think that is helping young people to be more? Well, I'm not gonna say young people. Let's go with the family. Do you think that is helping family members to not be so judgy and not be more accepting and understanding of the of their young person who may identify?
I
Is it
think
got
it's
easier or is it
I think
still
it's helping I think it's helping families know that the conversation needs to happen.
okay?
Like it's helping families not avoid it because
Hmm.
children have cell phones, so they can see what's happening and ask questions, or they're
Hmm.
watching the news or they're watching the reality TV show. So it creates more of a space that growing up for someone like me,
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
was nothing on TV that we were gonna have that was gonna spark a
Right.
conversation
Hmm.
unless RuPaul, there was really not a lot on TV that was gonna spark a conversation for us to have
Hmm.
as a family.
Hmm.
Um, but I think even for children, it's helping them see, okay, I'm not the only one at 12
Right.
or 13 that has these feelings and doesn't know what to do with them.
Right.
Because even for me, I didn't know the term, but I knew there was something different early as like 5 or 6,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
children are very aware.
Right, right, right. And so, your advice to young people who are, still in that quandary, they're struggling in their family, regardless of how mainstream and how the world has infused, the community has infused into the world. What do you say to a young person whose family just, really still doesn't accept or ascribe? How do you, what can you say to help them get over, the hump, and, really, I don't want to say accept because everybody wants to be loved for who they are as a person, but how do you help them navigate that space, if they're not being accepted?
There's a couple of things I would recommend, particularly for college students.
Mm-hmm.
You have a resource that once you graduate college will not be free ever again, which is counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Utilize counseling to identify techniques on how to process it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because everybody's family won't understand, everybody's family won't be accepting,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just a reality. It's a bad reality, but it is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Many of us in the queer community have friends who are just as close as family.
Mm-hmm.
We may not be blood, but that's the only thing that separates us from being family.
Right.
And
Right.
so many of us had determined if my family walks away, I
Mm-hmm.
know I got my family. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of that's really how a lot of these houses came about, was because
Mm-hmm.
their parents were putting them out or their families were saying, if that's how you're gonna identify, you can't be here. You can't live here.
Right.
So they were finding themselves living with their gay families.
Mm-hmm.
So find a support system,
Right.
even if it's not your family, might be a distant cousin, it might be an aunt that supports you.
Mm-hmm.
Find who you. Um, Process how you identify.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doesn't label it, and that is fine. You
Right.
don't have to identify. You don't have to put a label on it, but identify who you are. Figure
Mm-hmm.
out within yourself who you are and find a support system, even if it's not your mother, your father, your grandmother, your sibling.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone who will wrap their arms around you,
Right.
and be a support system. Get your degree,
Mm-hmm.
finish college, get your job and take care of yourself.
Right.
I knew within me, if my family did walk away, I was gonna finish college and I
Mm-hmm.
was gonna be able to take care of Brent.
Right.
So you've got to be able to, you have to have some resilience and some grit
Mm-hmm.
in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard sometimes and it's definitely challenging emotionally, but I can't say how much counseling is important in this process because it's healing,
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic, and it helps you get the feelings out. It helps you be able to verbalize what you're feeling because that's the missing piece sometimes. People don't always have the space to just
Right.
let things out, particularly Black men.
Mm-hmm.
We are raised that you don't cry, you don't do this, you don't do that, and those emotions just stay
Right.
inside, but they got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm. 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 You don't want them to come out in a negative way. Um, Health. We talked about mental health. Um, share some of the resources that our students. We have a health center here on campus that is, very friendly. Our nurses are trained and understand. We have our community clinic that comes on campus twice a week for men, twice a week for women. Talk about how important health and where resources, how students can access resources in the community that they're in.
Health and wellness is a part of the conversation that I feel like sometimes we shy away from.
Mhm.
But we have to have that conversation.
Mhm.
Um, and not just sexual health, but all aspects of health and wellness.
Mhm.
Whether that's the things you eat. In college, I gained a ton of weight because
Hello.
I ate out all the time. I ate fast food. I
Right, right.
hated the cafeteria.
Yep.
So making sure that you have healthy food options for you. Go to the dining hall. Usually in the cafeteria, there's more healthy options than the
Mhm.
quick stuff, like your
Right.
Chick-fil-A, things like that on campus.
Mhm.
That's one. Try to exercise, whether that's a walk in the morning, going to the gym, something that kind of keeps you moving as a young person.
Mhm.
Sexual health is also important.
Right.
Uh, Make sure you're using protection. Make sure you're having conversations about how to have sex with same gender loving. What does that look like? Um, if you're having sex with someone who's trans, what does that look like?
Mhm.
You need to have those discussions about sex.
Right.
And that is a difficult part, particularly for an 18 or 19-year-old, because most of the time your parents aren't having conversations with you about what same love and sex looks like.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
so
You're learning it from the outside. Yeah.
learning it from the outside or you're learning it from trial and error. And so
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
condoms. If
Mhm.
you have access to PrEP, I know sometimes it's really expensive and it's difficult for college students.
Mhm.
But if you have access to PrEP or other types of uh, protections, that's really important.
Mhm.
Um, the rates of HIV in Black gay men is probably like 1 and 2 at this point. So
Mhm.
it's really important that you exercise sexual health.
Right.
In addition, mental health is important because processing and navigating all of this can be a real challenge mentally.
Mhm.
And it is in the Black community, it's often taboo to go to counseling.
Right.
But let me say,
And
counseling is important.
to see about yourself physically.
Yeah, counseling is just as much about the physical as it is the mental. When you
Right.
think about health and wellness, it's all of that. All of those things are in there.
Mhm.
Try to exercise self care. As a college student, you're always busy. You're
Mhm.
going to events, you're going to
Right.
class, you might be a student athlete. You're trying to navigate social scenes.
Mhm.
You're thinking about life after college.
Mhm.
It moves so busy, you never take time to like
Right.
slow down. Take
Mhm.
time for yourself.
And to take care of yourself. Correct. We do have through our LGBTQ community, through our organizations on campus, the health center, like I said, there are different programs on campus for students. We do HIV AIDS testing on campus. If you go around any place on campus in student affairs, there's a candy and condoms display. So we make sure that we're open, to have students to have those things available. Our nurse calls us, say, "Hey, come pick them up. Let's go." She gets a new batch in, and so we all always have resources for students and want to make sure that we're taking care of them. Um, I'm going to ask Mr. Smalls if there are any questions from our guests outside that are hanging out with us. Any questions from the audience, Mr. Smalls? No questions? No questions yet? Okay. All right. So just some advice as we begin to wrap up. Any advice for young people, coming into who they are, their authentic self, and as they age and grow, we're seasoned
Mhm.
that you can share.
My advice in the college years is enjoy every moment,
Mhm,
seize every moment.
mhm,
College was the best times of my life.
mhm.
Like, I graduated from undergrad many years ago, but
Yeah.
I can still reach back to those to memories and to stories. I can hear a song come on the radio. I know exactly what year I was in college.
Take you right back.
Immediately.
Right.
Seize those moments.
Right.
Make the most of those friendships that you're making. Make
Mhm,
the most of your relationships with faculty and staff. You will need them again.
mhm,
You'll need a recommendation letter for grad school. You'll need a reference for a job. Don't burn bridges with your faculty and staff.
mhm.
Build great relationships. Become an engaged alum when you graduate from the institution.
Right.
Uh, Become a financial alum when you
Mhm.
graduate from the institution. The
Right.
institution will still be a part of you when
Right.
you leave. Um, in terms of owning yourself, be patient with yourself
Mm.
because that those coming to ownership of who you are happens at different times for different people,
Right.
and it
Right.
looks differently.
Mhm.
Don't put yourself on timelines.
Mhm.
Be
Mhm.
patient with yourself. As
Mhm.
you get older, you will become more comfortable with yourself. You will become more comfortable with dating, more
Mhm.
than likely.
Mhm.
You will become more comfortable with family life. Um, Everything takes time. Don't rush it.
Mhm.
Um, Enjoy the seasons that you're in.
Right.
Enjoy the season of college. Enjoy the season of early 20s, mid 20s. When
Mhm.
you creep into the 30s, things get even better. You
Right.
know, I remember I was super nervous to turn 30, and I've been in my early 30s, and it has been great.
Great.
So
Mhm. Mhm.
enjoy life as it goes. Remember that your story isn't over.
Mhm.
You're just at the beginning. You're on chapter one right
Right.
now.
Right.
The writing will continue.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Quick fire. What are some do not do's as a straight person
Mm,
when I'm engaging someone in the community, queer, gay, lesbian? What are some don'ts
don't
that
do.
right that
Let's
we
see.
find ourselves stumbling over our feet?
Um, don't use slurs.
Mm.
That's a pretty easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, don't assume
Mm.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
let the person tell you how they identify.
Right.
Um,
Is it okay
and
for
they
me to ask if I if
um,
I if I think? Is it okay for me to ask?
I think it depends on what you need to know for, like why you're asking,
Oh,
because
why am I
everybody
asking?
is not comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so be
Mm-hmm.
careful with that.
Right.
Uh, give space for people to open up to
Mm-hmm.
you, and they will. Like, if people feel comfortable with you
Mm-hmm.
and you're an ally, we can pick up very quickly
Mm.
who's an ally and who's for us. It
Right.
does not take long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a pocket of the community that we have not talked about
Mm-hmm.
is folks who are not out, or folks who are don't identify or classify themselves as down low. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a whole different population
Okay.
um, than those of us that are out, comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and willing to have conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Never out someone. That's a big do not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't make a person feel like they have to say that they're,
Right.
this way, because people make assumptions about who people are based on their expression.
Mm-hmm.
Like more masculine females, people automatically assume are lesbian, or more feminine men, people automatically assume that they're gay, but they may not be.
Right.
So take time to really get to know
The
the
person.
person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are just some do nots that just really stick out. Oh, do not try to hook us up with somebody unless you talk to us, okay? Because my
I
friends have
think
been
that's just in
notorious about
general.
like, oh, I got a friend and he's
Brilliant.
gay, and I know you'll like him. You
Right.
don't know what I like,
Right.
okay?
Right.
We got to discuss that before you try to hook me up with somebody.
Exactly. Exactly.
Those are just those are
Listen,
do not
don't
just
do.
don't do those.
Right, right, right. I think about, as I've had experience and begin to learn more about, the community, it's no different from heterosexual issues and problems and
You know,
situations. It's the same thing.
yeah, same
It's
issues.
the same stuff. You're a
Yeah,
human being that's experiencing the same thing. You're just identified differently.
yeah, same issues.
Yeah, it's the same. We're not that different
No,
at
it's
all.
really not. The
Mhm,
problem is,
mhm,
particularly in Black communities, we
mhm.
just have not given people the space to be and
Right.
to be who they are. And so until that, if it ever happens, if we ever just give people the freedom and ownership to just be, I think
Mhm.
we'll be in a better place.
Right, right. I totally agree. Well, I thank you so much for this time. Know that you'll see a lot more of Dr. Lewis here on campus. And Mr. Stone, say hello. But definitely, if you have any questions afterwards, you can email me at bradleyb@savannahstate.edu. Definitely, we'll get those over to Dr. Lewis to answer. I don't know everything. I told you, I'm still overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff that happens, and I'm like, what? Oh my goodness. Yeah. So at Savannah State, I'm proud to say that we have moved so fast with making sure that we have resources and have these conversations and make sure that the campus is a space for all students, regardless gender, race, ethnicity, everything. And a lot of that has to do with you. We appreciate you for always lending and giving and, making sure. I know it's because you don't want us to go out here and embarrass you. So you make sure we're equipped with the information that we need. But let us know your email address in case students want to connect with you, or if any of our professionals that are watching may have some questions for you that we didn't get a chance to discuss tonight.
Sure. If you want to connect with me, ask me a question. Happy to engage. My email is B as in boy, ELEWIS 87 at gmail.com. That's BE Lewis 87 at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. We can connect. Dean Bradley, maybe we can do something on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Happy to engage. Please reach out. We can discuss. Faculty and staff happy to engage with you.
Mhm.
Probably will be connecting with Dean Bradley soon on some
Absolutely.
Facebook
You will.
training. So
Yes. I
look
actually
out.
have a series. I have a series that's coming up this semester as well. It's entitled "Let's Talk About It." So no topic is off limits. So we definitely will have you back to do that, and definitely safe space. But they'll see a lot more of you. And I just realized I don't know if we've ever talked about it. My birthday is August 8th.
What? I
Did
didn't
we
know
talk
that.
about that ever?
I knew you were a Leo, but I don't know if I knew your birthday was that close to mine. Wow.
This
No
is
wonder.
why.
This
This
is
is
why
why.
we are.
Right. This is why we are connected. The sun and the fire in the universe brings us together. But thank you again, Dr. Lewis, for joining us this evening for our Spectrum student mixer. We really do appreciate your knowledge and you sharing with us just who you are. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Happy to join again.
yes, yes. Take care, everybody. I'm going to try to join the trap and paint tonight. Now, Mr. Stowe has not given me any supplies. I asked to sign up, so hit him up on Instagram and tell him that you want to see Dean Bradley trap and paint. I want to, I got a little hood in me. You know it. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, if you have any questions or if there's anything that we missed or you need any resources, please connect with us. Again, our Spectrum Resource Center is located here in the Student Union on the second floor. We will have a host of programs and activities for you this semester virtually. Rona's still out there giving us a little bit of challenges, but I am hopeful that we will be able to have at least, one in-person program. But again, thank you all for joining us and look forward to seeing you